everyone. Welcome into another episode of Matt Sports Talk. And it is hard to believe it's the end of January and the latest RPI numbers are out. And I am going to be just going over the women's latest RPIs in this video. And on the men's side, I will say that while I'm not going to be looking at the men's side in this video, I will say that Grace and Indiana Wesleyan are second and third in the men's RPI, and Huntington is fifth. And then you have Taylor, I believe, 10th or 11th, and Bethel out of Indiana is 15th. So those are really the five best teams in the Crossroads League on the men's side. Of course, Grace, Indiana Wesleyan, Taylor, Huntington, and Bethel. So again, really no surprise there. So that's an updated view on the men's side. And now, before we dive into the women's side, if you are brand new to my channel, please hit the subscribe button down below if you are not already subscribed, as my goal is to hit 500 subscribers by the end of this year. So please make sure that you hit the subscribe button down below so you are first notified whenever I upload new episodes. And for those of you that are already subscribed to my channel, thank you so much for doing that. I really appreciate that. And please keep on subscribing. So looking at the RPI now, of course, you'll notice I'm wearing my beanie inside my home today here in Mount Vernon, Ohio, and that's because it is, of course, bitter cold. It's that way like everywhere in the country, and temperatures, I think, are only like 10 degrees outside, and the wind chill's like -5, so pretty cold. Of course, we just got hit with roughly about 10 to 12 inches of snow yesterday with that big winter storm that impacted so many people across the country, not just here in the Midwest, but of course in the Mid-South with the ice storm that they got. And of course, obviously our thoughts and prayers are with everybody in the Mid-South, and prayers that they definitely get power restored as quick as possible. That is for sure. So without further ado, let's dive into the latest RPI numbers on the women's side, and we are going to start first with St. Francis. Now, just the Crossroads schools. St. Francis is third in the RPI. Really no surprise here. And they are first in the Crossroads League, 9-1 on the year, and their strength of schedule is 22nd in their remaining 8 games, so really good numbers there. And their opponent's winning percentage is .582. And now, although the National Tournament Selection Show Committee doesn't really factor the opponent's winning percentage, that's not totally factored, but it at least, just for conversational purposes, St. Francis's opponent's winning percentage .553, and I mentioned their opponent's winning percentage .582, so really good numbers there. And then for Marion, they're fifth in the latest RPI number, and which is still really good. Of course, for the Knights, they are 1-0 since the last poll was released in terms of the RPI, which was last Monday, and they're coming off of a 22-point win against Bethel on Saturday. And I did recap all of those games for both the men and the women's side from Saturday. So if you missed any of that or want to catch up from this season, meaning Matt Sports Talk Season 2, you can go to my channel, click on Playlists, and then click on Matt Sports Talk Season 2, and all of my recap videos for both the men and the women's basketball is listed on that playlist from the very beginning of the season back in November. So that is an excellent way to catch up. So Marion, fifth in the RPI. Their strength of schedule is 8 teams, so really not too terribly bad there at all. Their opponent's winning percentage is .587. Their opponent's .565. So again, really good numbers there. But obviously, St. Francis and Marion for sure locked into the national tournament, no question about that. And then looking at the next Crossroads League school down is Spring Arbor. They are 15th in the RPI. So they have made some. Actually, they might have fallen a couple spots. I'm not totally sure from the last one, but they're 41st in strength of schedule, and their opponent's winning percentage is .548. Their opponent's .553. And then looking down the list at Huntington is 20th in the RPI. So again, really good to see that. Their strength of schedule is 9th. So really good to see that. That is for sure. And now, in the remaining strength of schedule out of just the Crossroads schools, you have believe it or not, the Huntington now has the highest strength of schedule remaining. They now have surpassed Indiana Wesleyan for the highest strength of schedule percentage left in the regular season with 8 games to go. So again, that's not too terribly shocking, but definitely a huge improvement there for the Lady Foresters. And their opponent's winning percentage is .613. Opponent's .559. They actually have their opponents have So for Huntington, their opponent's winning percentage is the highest out of everybody in the Crossroads League. So that is kind of surprising to say the least. So obviously really, really impressive to see that. And then looking further down the list at Taylor, 22nd on the RPI. Their strength of schedule, 51st. Their opponent's winning percentage, 543. Opponent's 551. And then looking further down the list of the next Crossroads school, you have Bethel out of Indiana. They're 44th in the RPI. So they actually did not go up or down despite losing by 22 to number 4 Marion on Saturday. And for the Bethel Pilots, their strength of schedule is 34th, 562. Opponent's winning percentage, 539. Opponent's winning percentage. It's not too terribly bad there at all. And then the last Crossroads League school in, at least just the 6 teams that have a chance and or are locked in a national tournament. Those are the only teams that I'm looking at with giving weekly updates on the RPI. And the final team, the Lady Wildcats of Indiana Wesleyan, believe it or not, they've fallen 7 spots since the last RPI, and this is despite having a 19-point win at Goshen on Saturday. Now you look at the teams around them, they fell 7 spots. They previously were 54th, but you look at the teams all around them. You have Montana State Northern 11-6. And then you have a 62 strength of schedule. Kaiser 11-5, 98th strength of schedule. St. Mary out of Kansas 102 strength of schedule, but they're 13-6. Arkansas Baptist 57th in the RPI. So Montana State Northern 54th, Kaiser 55th, St. Mary 56th, Arkansas Baptist 57. Their strength of schedule 152. They're 10-3. 58 is Bethany out of Kansas, 47 strength of schedule, 11-7 for them. They're coming off of a couple of big upset wins. So based on that, I'm not really shocked that they surpassed the Wildcats. Rochester Christian 59th. They are 74th in strength of schedule. They're 13-7. And then St. Francis of Illinois, 60th in the RPI, 215th in strength of schedule. Now, they're going to plummet, though, in the top, because they were previously ranked 15th. They're going to plummet because they lost to 2 unranked teams since the last NAIA Top 25 poll. They're 17-2 right now. Now, both those losses did come to unranked teams, so they are going to fall in the top 25. And then, of course, the Wildcats, 61st. Lady Wildcats of Indiana Wesleyan. Their strength of schedule number is actually the second highest out of everybody in the whole conference, at least I believe so. Theirs is 15th, Bethel's 34th. You have Taylor 51st, Huntington 9th, and then you would have St. Francis 22nd, Marion 18th. So yeah, the Wildcats actually have the second highest strength of schedule remaining. So really, really good there. And of course, the Wildcats 11-9 or 10-9 rather now on the year. Or 11-9. I know they're 5-5 in the conference. I believe they're 11-9, counting that home forfeit win against East-West University back in December. And the Wildcats, their opponent's winning percentage 594, opponent's 560. So really, really good numbers there. And then looking at each individual's team RPI number. Now this is, again, of course, I mentioned the RPI rank, I mentioned the opponent's winning percentage, the opponent's winning percentage. So, again, those 3 things matter. Now, more so the actual RPI number, the RPI ranking is important, especially for quad 1, 2, 3, and 4 games, especially because if you're a team that's 0 to 65th in the RPI, and you host a team that's within that range, or at least within the top 50 if you are hosting, then that qualifies as a quad 1 game, which Indiana Wesleyan's their next 4 games definitely are all going to be quad 1 games, because you have St. Francis, you have Huntington, you have Taylor, and you have Spring Arbor all inside the top 50 or the top 65 in the RPI. So these next 4 games for the Wildcats are all going to be quad 1 games. So looking at the Crossroads League RPI, just the RPI number for the Crossroads School, St. Francis 686, you have Marion 675. So again, really good numbers there. Then you have Spring Arbor 637. So again, you kind of see that St. Francis, Marion, Spring Arbor are the 3 best teams in the Crossroads League, no question about that. And then, of course, you have Huntington 619, and you have Taylor 618. So, I mean, you look at that, and they're easily the 5 best teams in the conference, and they have been the 5 best teams in the conference for the whole entire season. And now you definitely, I'm sure, or at least hopefully, will understand why, especially, with all those RPI numbers just being so close. And you figure, too, that the fifth best team in the conference being Taylor, their RPI number is 618. St. Francis 686, so that's 40, 50, 60, 70. That's roughly about 68-point difference in terms of being the best team in the Crossroads League to being the 5th best team in the Crossroads League. So obviously, these are really, really good numbers to look at just for comparison to see where the 5 best teams in the Crossroads League, sit. And of course, Taylor only 1 point behind Huntington for being the 4th best team in the conference. So again, things are just so tight. And not just that, but in the latest standings, I know I talked about that yesterday. Going into the games Wednesday, you have Huntington, Taylor, Indiana Wesleyan all within 1 game of actually Taylor and Huntington are tied for 4th and 5th in the conference, and Indiana Wesleyan's only 1 game back of 4th and 5th respectively. So that just goes to show you just how tight everything is. Spring Arbor, their RPI 637, so Taylor's only they're 20. Yeah, they're only like 20. 28, 20, let's see, they're 619, so that's 20, 630. Yeah, so, Taylor's only 18 points behind Spring Arbor for being the 3rd best team in the conference in terms of just the RPI number alone. So, this is just really, really fascinating to look at, that is for sure. And then looking down the list at Bethel, their RPI ranking is 584, which still isn't too terribly bad, but I think now you can kind of see, you can figure out who the 5 best teams are in the conference as opposed to, the teams that would be on the outside looking in terms of national tournament, and that definitely would be Bethel and Indiana Wesleyan right now, no question. Bethel 584 in their RPI ranking, and the Wildcats 567. So the Wildcats are only 17 points behind Bethel in terms of, the RPI rating. So again, you kind of look at all that, and you can definitely see who the best 7 teams are in the Crossroads League. And believe it or not, all 7 of these teams actually have a chance at making the NAI National Tournament. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see how all that plays out. That is for sure. So that is going to do it for this video, going over all of that. And then the next videos that will be coming our way will be on Thursday. That will be recapping rather the games. That'll be recapping the games from Wednesday night that'll be coming your way on Thursday, so make sure that you stay tuned for that. And then, of course, the next ARC and the quad records, those will be coming out as we head into the first week of February. Actually, I believe it's next Monday. Yeah, next Monday, I believe, is when the next ARC numbers come out, as well as the next RPI numbers. So I'll be recording a video on Monday going over all of that. So again, make sure that you stay tuned for for those things. And then I believe the updated quad records are going to be coming out Tuesday, February 3rd. So again, I'll be recording a video then going over all of that with you. So again, make sure that you stay tuned. And then on Sunday, I'll be doing a video recapping all the games from Saturday in the Crossroads League for both the men and the women. So again, make sure that you stay tuned for all of that. It's definitely going to be a very busy, I shouldn't say busy week, but especially as we get towards the end of the regular season and into the postseason for previewing the national tournament for the Crossroads League, the Mid-South, the G-Pack, those 3 conferences specifically. I'm going to be doing a lot more videos, that is for sure, as we head into early March, not just, previewing which teams out of those 3 conferences specifically would be in the national tournament, which teams would be on the bubble, which teams might not make it, based on RPI, ARC, quads, all that good stuff. And not just that, but of course going over the final quad records with you, as well as the final RPI ratings, the final ARC rankings. So man, the first week of March, y'all, it is going to be quite a week, and there will be a lot of videos coming your way that week leading up to Selection Show Thursday, which will be March 7th at 8 p.m. for the women. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see how all of it plays out, that's for sure. If you did enjoy this video or find it very helpful and or informative, please either like, comment, or subscribe down below. Any one of those options helps me out greatly. Thanks so much for tuning into this video. Have a great day, and I will see you on Thursday recapping all of the games from Wednesday night. God bless.